Tell me a little bit more about your musical background from Russia.
Musical background in Russia. I started studying music as a violinist. I began as a violin player. I don't remember how old I was, 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to music school as a violin player. And then later on, I think I was already 9 or 10, I really got into singing and singing in a choir. My mom and my aunt were both choir directors, so two sisters, choir directors. My mom worked in Moscow and my aunt worked in Kharkov, which is a city in Ukraine. One of the summers, my aunt took me on a choir trip with her choir. She went to St. Petersburg and she took me along. And this is when I, for the first time, heard kids singing together, a choir. I think I was 9. It was a summer trip, and I was blown away. I remember that by the end of the trip, I knew all of the songs they were doing, and I wanted to sing, but they were in a different city. I was in Moscow, they were in Kharkov. They must have talked, the two sisters, my mom and my aunt, and so I guess decided to send me into the choir. And so I auditioned for a choir in Moscow. The choir was, and still is, I think, one of the best children's choirs around, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And it is called the Big Children's Choir of Moscow Television and Radio. It is an amazing choir because they had the privilege of recording pretty much everything they sang in professional studios with the best equipment. And most of the songs that we sang were recorded today and played on radio tomorrow and shown on TV tomorrow. It was very professional, very exciting, and I really liked singing there. It was just something that I really enjoyed. So when I finished the music school as a violinist, and my voice broke, so I stopped singing at the big children's choir. When it was time to go and decide what I want to do after graduating the high school, I really thought of doing, either the violin or the choir conducting. But choir really won for many reasons. I think I made the right decision. So when I went into college, I went as a choral directing major rather than violin. I finished my music school where I took the violin and music theory, music history. That's 8 years. And, finished high school, finished singing in the big children's choir. And then I entered the Moscow Music College, named after Tchaikovsky. It's a music college at the conservatory, at the Moscow Conservatory. After doing, I think, about 2 months of college, I was drafted into the army. So I spent 2 years in the armed forces and then came back, finished that year, plus 1 more year in college. And that was the time when the opportunity to come to the United States opened up. This was the time of perestroika, as they call it at the time of rebuilding. We had, in Moscow, I remember we had Reagan visiting, and it made a big stir. People were telling how he got out of the car and was shaking people's hands, and so that was about the time when I was planning to leave Russia. I think that's why they opened up the opportunity for those that wanted to leave at the time. So we did. We didn't know how long this perestroika would last. So we didn't know it was actually going to last a long time. Yeah. So we thought maybe it's just a temporary phenomenon. So we decided it was time. Yeah. 89, a lot of people were leaving, and I was among them with my family. So we went to the United States, and in the United States, I continued. I actually went to Cal State Northridge on advice from somebody I knew. We went to Cal State Northridge because somebody just told us, it has a great music program. And so we went there in mid-year. Obviously I already missed the auditions and everything else. So we went, I think, in January that I went there and met with the teachers there. And actually with David Scott, who was the vocal chair. And he let me enter mid-year in February. I sang my audition, and I was finishing up in Northridge, so it took me a couple of years to finish my bachelor's degree there, because I didn't finish it in Russia. So I finished it at Cal State Northridge, then got my master's degree there, and then went to USC for my doctoral degree.
Regarding the Burbank Chorale, what drew you there?
It's a great question. I can't remember how I found about the Burbank Chorale. There could have been a post at the Cal State Northridge in one of the boards, like job boards, or it could have been online that I read about this. I think it was online. It was already, 2000, when they were looking for a new director, friend Basil. was leaving the Burbank Chorale. He was doing his last concert, getting ready to do Creation by Haydn. And so they were looking for a new director. I think I saw an ad. Yeah, I'm pretty positive I saw it online, maybe on CoralNet. I sent in an application. I got a response from the president at the time, and I came in for an audition, and I loved the group right away. I was very pleased. I brought, for an audition, actually, I brought a Russian piece, and I thought, listen, let's see if they're going to be able to do it. And they did. They read it from the first time. They read it quite well with such eagerness. And I thought, when I was auditioning, I thought that this piece would be too difficult. And I thought maybe, the singers are going to go, okay, well, this director, he wants to do only difficult stuff in Russian, and it's going to be tough to work with him. But I think they were all taken by the music and read it very, very well. Did two pieces, I think. The Russian piece that I brought and one more. I don't remember what it was. Anyway, the audition, I really had great fun, and the choir sang beautifully. And then they called me in, and they invited me for an interview. I came in to hear the Burbank Chorale in their concert with Frank Bazille when they did their Creation, and they paired together with the Premier Chorale with Terry Dan, and they did the Creation. It was a great concert. Really enjoyed it. My favorite memory, of course, my personal favorite memory is my first concert with the Burbank Chorale when we were singing in the Forest Lawn at the Hall of Liberty. It was my first concert with the Burbank Chorale. And I remember just before getting on stage, just greeting every singer as they go on stage. And then as I walk on stage and turn to the audience, take my quick bow, I turn towards the choir and I see big, frightened eyes looking at me. And people are whispering something to me. And I look at them and I understand what's going on. And so you're back. And so after the first song, I finished conducting my first song. I walked off stage, I took off my jacket, and all my back was white with some kind of a paint. I guess as I was standing there, greeting the singers, maybe I leaned into the wall, and there was not a wet paint, but I don't know what it was, but something. So I got it off my jacket and came back like nothing happened. But that was I think it was a great way to start my tenure, because it's been better ever since. So I think working as a choir director, you work with an instrument that is very interactive and fun to work with. And you cannot be joking around with your piano when you're practicing your piano, and the violin is not going to respond to anything that you're going to say. The choir it's an amazing instrument because it's alive. Just the idea of working with singers, interacting with singers, it's such a great joy, such fun. And I remember going to choir, always enjoying it. It's almost an entertainment to me. It's not just a rehearsal. It's like a piece of theater, from the beginning to the end. Especially if the director plans it well and knows how to work on the music and then have some fun and then work on the music again and then have a very beautiful musical moment, have a very funny moment, have a very poignant moment, So all of it should be, I think, there in the rehearsal, and that's why choir is so amazing. And so I really don't think I made a bad choice with the choir directing. I've enjoyed it ever since.
We're almost done. The other question, what do you see as one of your bigger challenges as a conductor, would you say?
I think one of our challenges is, of course, the support that the chorale gets. Support in terms of funding. That's, I think, our challenge. Not my challenge as the artistic director, but because of that, there are challenges. Because the funding is, it comes and goes, unfortunately, in our world. And when I started with the chorale, we had a grant from the city of Burbank that then disappeared, because City of Burbank just canceled its perform arts grant to all the performing arts organizations in Burbank, all of them, including the theater and the ballet company and the high school and including us. And it was a big chunk of our budget. And this is when we had to go from presenting free concerts to the public to actually charging for admission, because we just couldn't afford not to charge admission.
Yeah.
We had to, our money had to come from somewhere. Just getting a place to sing, we have to pay for that.
Yeah.
So funding of the chorale is one of the challenges for the community group, I think, nowadays. And another challenge probably would be finding a place to perform in Burbank. So we've changed a few venues, and now we're happily performing in the Burbank United Methodist Church.
as a conductor, how have you grown since you've been working with the Burbank Chorale? But in your style, what you've learned as a conductor, and
Well, it's very difficult to describe, Mike. It's been a long time. I've been with the chorale since 2000, so what was it, 9 years?
Yeah.
This is my 10th year. This is my anniversary with the chorale, actually.
yeah,
And it's there is definitely a growth. When I started working with the chorale, I just started my doctoral degree. So 6 years later, after that, I got my doctoral. And I think chorale taught me everything. Everything I know about choral music, everything. Because one thing is to learn about it in class. The other thing is to actually practice it with with the wonderful, energetic group.